I finally learned that when you can really truly release people to the outcomes of their choices, you don't have to be attached to what that outcome is. That's when you know that you're fully free. Going back to changing the narrative, that when you make that move from corporate and you make that move to consulting, a lot of people still show up as an employee. You're a consultant, but you keep showing up as an employee and you allow people to treat you as an employee, when the truth of the matter has now become, I am an expert and I have information that your organization needs, and I'm here to show you how to do it. So I'm not here to show up and do a job. I am here to facilitate transformation. And I think a lot of people who make that shift from corporate to consulting don't make the mindset shift of changing the role and who they are and how they show up in the world.
Right. In my corporate career, I probably had, with one company, I probably had 10 or 12 job titles in different areas. And most of them, I didn't say, oh, I want that job over there. Most of it was, we've got a new role for you. We would like you to step into this role. If you have confidence in yourself, and everybody needs to build that up on their own, nobody can have it for you.
Yeah.
Then you can navigate. You can work through this. And yeah, you can have bad days. Lord knows if you're alive, you're going to have a bad day.
Right.
But you can also come out on the other side stronger. Because often I'll see something current or old. Yep, we're canceling this. We're not doing this. Okay. Is there an opportunity coming up? What does this present? But you need to know that majority, maybe all, but at least the majority of our clients are not going to hire you because of your website.
Yes.
They're going to hire you because either they have worked directly with you or they have seen you in action. They saw you speak at a meeting. They saw you at a conference. They have some connection to you, and they're going to either reference you, refer you, or have worked with you and they're going to hire you.
Welcome to Conversations with Roz Clark. And guess who I am? I am Roz Clark, the Dream Doula. And we are all about having conversations that matter so that we can impact and change and transform lives. And I'm always looking at the conversation around rebirth and resilience, because life, as the kids say, life be lifing. And so we're always in a situation or in a process of evolution, a process of growth, a process of unfolding and figuring out what comes next. And if we are in like the messy middle, then the conversation is always about, what is this here to teach me? So this episode, I'm super excited to have one of my dear, dear friends. We have been friends and colleagues for a minute, and I'm excited that he is a part of my life. And I'm absolutely excited to have him as a part of this show so that I can share his wisdom, his knowledge, his wit, and his wonderfulness with you. So without further ado, I want to bring to the stage my dear friend, Bernard Boudreaux. Bernard, welcome, my darling.
Right. Hey, I'm here. I'm on stage. I'm with you. It's just us and a bunch of people listening, but it's just us. So, hey.
Just us. Yes, 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 yes. It's like going through life with theme music in our head. If it's not playing right now, at least it's playing internally for us, right?
And my theme music right now for today is Shirley Horn singing And Here's to Life. So there's that one.
Yes. Here's to life. Here's to love. No, here's to life. Here's to you. Here's to... Is it life, love you, or life you love?
Life, love you.
You.
Yes.
Yeah. One of the greatest songs of all times. And that was an amazing songstress who did that song. Yeah, it's one of my favorites. So yeah, thank you for bringing that energy to the conversation. And so today, like I shared a little bit in the intro, in these times, what was the church song? In times like these,
We need an anchor.
we need a whole lot of things in times like these. And so the conversation that I want to have around just what's going on right now, how we respond and how we grow from it. And like I said earlier, having the inquiry of what is this here to teach me? Because there's so many things that are designed right now to keep us afraid, to keep us anxious, and to have us all, like discombobulated. And so now when we start having the conversations on what does next look like, I think it starts with what are you planning and how do you take control? So having said all of that, Bernard, just share a little bit. Like I said, I've known you for years. You were a sponsor of my nonprofit, a mentor to me, a friend, and you have gone through corporate and now you are consulting. And so there's all the things. So talk to me a little bit, just first and foremost, about your journey. Let my audience know a little bit about who you are and how you show up in the world.
Got it. Yes. And I think you just said earlier, and it was almost a throwaway comment, but you said, and there's always next. And that is so true. And when I think about my path, my journey, the ups, downs, there's always a next. And when you're in the middle of it, you don't necessarily know there's a next. As my aunt, my mother's sister used to say, baby, just live another day. So whether it's your best day yet and you're so excited, live another day. Or if it's your worst day ever and I'm so mad, I can't believe it, my world is over, she'd say, just live another day. Said the way you said it, there's always next. We don't know what next is, but there's next. My career, my journey, my path, I'd like to say it wasn't a very linear path, but I don't know if anybody's is all that linear. We just think it is because in the storybooks, they often are. I was conceived and grew up here in Northern California in Sonoma County, which is now wine country. Back when I grew up there, it was not wine country, it was sheep country. Very rural. And youngest of 8 kids, big family. We were the Black family at the school I went to in the community, which had its strong advantages and its strong disadvantages. When you're the Black kid and the youngest, you absorb and see and learn a lot. So you learn how to navigate and how to work in other folks' world that may be different than yours. And being the youngest, I watched my older siblings a lot. And my oldest brother is 18 years older than I am. So there was a gap. And it's amazing how much in hindsight you learn just by watching, just by observing, just by seeing the mistakes they make. Oh, don't make that one. And the wins they have and like, ooh, let me do that. Caught the retail bug my first year of college. I worked in a very, very small men's clothing store and wanted to go into retail. I wanted to do this. How do they pick this clothing? How do they pick this price? Who picked this color and why? Why is it on sale? So went into retail and stayed for various companies. We'll get into that later or not. Was working in retail, well, for over 30 years, over 40 years, probably over 40 years in a variety of different roles, literally from in-store selling product to traveling the world to find the next trend. So very big changes in different worlds there. And within that, working for a very large company, I had a very good year, but I was also done. I was emotionally and physically done in working in retail. And at the same time was volunteering with an organization that doesn't exist anymore. It was called San Francisco School Volunteers. And they had put a call out because they were literally looking for Black and brown men to volunteer in the classroom because they had so few teachers who were in the classroom. And I volunteered. I come from a history of teachers. I felt a calling to work with kids in education. But you're comfortable when you're in your corporate job. So I wasn't going to quit. But the more I did it, the more I realized I need to do more with education. I need to do more with youth. So I had announced at work that I was going to quit and gave them a year's notice and that I would be going into the classroom. At the same time, the corporation said, we're doing a major change in our corporate responsibility, our community engagement. We are going to focus our number one priority on K-12 education. Why don't you lead that work? Like, because I'm not an expert in that. So nope. Talk to my sister, who's one of my mentors and one of my sheroes, who has had, I think, 5 major careers so far. And she's like, have you lost your mind? When a major corporation, literally the C-suite says, we'd like you to take this job that we're newly creating, you take the damn job. Now, you could quit later, but take the job.
Right.
So, and there were perks that came with it that she highlighted. So I took it thinking I would do it for a year or 2 years. And I did that for 18 years. And it morphed into a whole bunch of different stuff, which was even better because my brain needs a next. And then ironically, so 18, I'm pretty much done with the corporate world, done with all of that. And while doing that, I was also doing some volunteer work and coaching at Georgetown University as part of my job. But Georgetown saw it as volunteer coaching, but work said, no, we're paying you to do this.
Wow.
When I retired, Georgetown said, are you going to keep coaching with us? And I said, volunteer coaching. I'm actually not volunteering. I'm being paid to do this. And I'm in California, you're in DC, not so much. They said, well, how about if we create a job for you to do what you were doing already in your retirement? So I took a retirement job there, which was going to be part-time for 1 year. And it ended up being full-time for 6 or 7 years. And then last year.
Was it that long? I didn't realize it had lasted that long.
And the ironic thing is, I said, no, I got to stop. This is no. So now I'm consulting with them 4 weeks a year. And that's where we are today, as well as coaching nonprofit organizations, because that feeds my heart. When I can spend time with some nonprofit organizations, find out what the challenge is and which of their challenges fit within my wheelhouse, and I can help them with that. So that's a long story to my weird career / educational path.
Yeah. And what I think is really interesting in that story, like you said, it wasn't a linear path, but yet still there has been a through line. So the through line has been curiosity. The through line has been education in different levels. The through line in, can we say it out loud? Corporate responsibility,
Yep.
Impacting the lives of people in communities. It's like, in this season right now, people don't know how to say that out loud or show up in a way that says, you know what? Taking care of people is a good thing. Caring about other people is a good thing. And you don't have to get on a soapbox or plant a flag on a hill. And yet, what I have noticed, like this whole culture of fear and uncertainty. So we understand that the media has done their job. Their job is to keep us afraid, unsure, and tuning in, because that's the business model. The business model is, how do we get people to keep tuning in? Well, fear is a pretty good driver. So if we keep them afraid and unsure, they'll keep coming back and listening. And yet our job is to only listen to what serves us well and not get paralyzed by the information we're taking in.
I could not agree with you more. So I agree with you 1,000%. And I'm going to throw an and in on there. I see not only the throwing of stuff to confuse and disrupt and negatively disrupt, because disruption does not have to be negative, but also to distract. And I see a lot of media stuff that I call just, okay, that's cute for a minute. Okay, good. Why is this dragging out? Why are we all talking about her new haircut, his new dance, why are we all talking about something? Baby, that's cute for 5 minutes. No, that's not important. Let's focus back on what is important, and not only important, what do we need to do to improve our communities, improve our lives, improve our what's next.
Yes.
Because, yeah, I'll stop there. I'm
Yes.
gonna get on the soapbox, and I don't want to get on the soapbox. This is just having a
No,
conversation.
this is a soapbox friendly zone. So you're in a safe place, my friend. And yeah, and when we think about that, because instead of being reactionary, to have the foresight to begin to plan and understand, like, the best way, if we're like, oh my God, I don't know what's going to happen next. The best way to know what's going to happen next is to plan for it, to create a plan, a system, a community, whatever it is, that we can begin to say, okay, there may be some things that are going away that I care about. So if I care about those things, so for me, with my work with my clients in being a dream doula and helping people to reimagine their lives and their business, if there is something that I care about, or someone or something that I care about, then I need to make sure that I'm putting systems and procedures in place to have the resources to
Yes.
support the things that I care about.
Yes.
So rather rather than just say, oh my God, it's going to go away, and I'm not saying just lay down and let that happen. And yet what I am saying is, if it does go away, what is my role to make sure that people are still being served, that they're still being taken care of, that I have built a business and a brand that allows me the gift of being able to be generous.
And if it's going away, what does that look like it's going away? Because it going away may be the title, but really, when you pull a layer back, it's changing, or it's
Yes.
shifting, or maybe it's going away, and in its place, we have something. So before the sky is falling, whatever, let's look and see, this may be an opportunity for,
Yes.
yeah, because often I'll see something current or old. Yep, we're canceling this. We're not doing this. Okay. Is there an opportunity coming up? What does this present? And as my grandmother used to say, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. So just your own personal being. Okay, I know there's a next coming. What do I do to strengthen myself so that I can put on my own mask before I help the next person? So I'm good. I'm grounded. I see this happening. Okay, I can navigate this, because Lord knows, once I left in my corporate career, I probably had, with one company, I probably had 10 or 12 job titles in different areas. And most of them, I didn't say, oh, I want that job over there. Most of it was, we've got a new role for you. We would like you to step into this role. Some that I was well prepared for. Others, I was like, I don't even know what that is. But you know what? I have confidence in me. I have confidence in my sponsors, my mentors, my coaches, folks. And I believe in all three of those, by the way. Maybe we need to talk about that. The importance of having sponsors and coaches and mentors. So when you do hit a blip, when you do have a question, when you are not so sure, there are people you can turn to and say, help me wrap my brain around this.
Yes.
Is this a good thing, bad thing, a neutral thing, and what's next? But if you have confidence in yourself, and everybody needs to build that up on their own, nobody can have it for you.
Yeah.
Then you can navigate. You can work through this. And yeah, you can have bad days. Lord knows, if you're alive, you're going to have a bad day.
Right.
But you can also come out on the other side stronger, successful, and a little bit happy with yourself. I did that. I'm okay.
Yeah.
I'm breaking the earth a kid right now, and I'm still here. So.
And I am still here. Yes. Yes. And I think, your point to, if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. Like that, people don't realize really how powerful that statement is. That if you keep looking, or like your grandmother said, you keep living, that if you're ready for what's next, or you've done everything that you can to be as prepared as you can to be the best and highest version of yourself, to understand what your gifts and your talents are and how you bring those forth in the world, that when those opportunities come, those opportunities that's like, wow, I never even thought about that. Here comes this opportunity that I've never thought of. And yet what I do know is I've got the internal fortitude and the skill sets that I can have that are transferable to a new opportunity. And like you said, I'm wise enough to ask a coach, a mentor, somebody to give me information that I understand, that I don't have to do this on my own. I just have to ask the right questions.
Yep. Yep. I love me a good coach, because they can also, I can think of 2 jobs right now that were internal to the corporation that I was surprised I was being asked to do. I didn't know enough about it, but I wasn't smart enough the first time to realize this is not forever. They don't want me in this job forever. They want me there as a filler person till they get the person they really want. I didn't know that at the time. You want me to step into this? That's more of a role than I'm not used to that. And you're going to make it sweet and perks and do this and this. And my brain is wondering why. And they're not going to tell you why. They will not tell you why. It's not a bad thing. I'm not losing anything, but I'm stepping into waters that are murky. And I don't know that I will succeed in those murky waters.
Yeah.
Because most of us don't want to swim in murky waters. I do not. I want a clean pool where I can see the bottom and the sides and there's the end. And if that opportunity comes its way and you feel secure enough in yourself and the organization, and your coach says, let's think of this in different ways. If nothing else, you will grow from this.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna try it. And then it's like, oh, this is a blessing, to the point that when, 9 months later, okay, we're going to move you here because now so-and-so is stepping into this role. And then when you see so-and-so, you realize, oh, she makes sense for this role. I get it. What you got for me? But then in hindsight, it all made sense. But life don't work that way.
Yeah.
We do not have the opportunity of seeing what our next, going back to your first point, what next is going to look like for us.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And just having that, like I talk all the time about rebirth and resilience, having that resilience to keep coming back, because I can think of, and I've been an entrepreneur since I was in my 20s. And interestingly enough, one of the last jobs that I had kind of solidified that for me, because I was young and I was put in a position that they basically, like you're saying, they didn't think for me, it was like almost a setup to fail because I was so young. I was made a program director of a community organization that I was passionate about because I had grown up in that organization. Mm-hmm. And they are like, oh, she's young and it won't last, but like she can be a space holder. What I didn't know is their intention was to close the place down.
Oh, okay.
So I come in, I'm starting to create programs. The programs are getting revitalized. People are coming back. And it's like, oh, wait a minute, this is working. This was not supposed to happen.
Yep.
And so they ended up choosing to terminate me. So, and I got terminated basically because I was doing too good of a job.
Correct.
And so like my thing was, okay, this is 50 Shades of Crazy. I am never doing this shit again. Let me start my first business. And so that's how I moved into entrepreneurship. So for me, when, and I didn't know to ask the question at that time, but the question was, what is this here to teach me? So what it taught me was that I don't necessarily work well with, what's the word? It's, I can't even think of the right word, but like people who are setting things up and doing things kind of clandestine. I don't work well in that of, situation. And so it's like, okay, there, I don't know how to play nice in the sandbox. So I probably need to leave that particular park and then go do something else. So build my own sandbox and create a culture. There's the word. I don't work in cultures that are clandestine. Yep. And so my job was to learn how to create cultures that were aligned with my values and my dedication to be of service. And
Yep.
so that has been one of the through lines through my life of, running this organization and then leaving and then pursuing my artistic career, and then my son having his first seizure and me having to let that go, and then creating a nonprofit so I could help other people live their dreams. And then when the marriage got 50 shades of crazy and I left after 30 years, taking all the skills that I had and even my artistry and creativity and building a business that allowed me to take care of my special needs son and still impact the lives of others and make a living. So that was my through line of continuing to show up creatively and continue to serve and continue to speak life into situations. So that's just always been my calling and my gift.
One of the things I love about that calling and that gift is, to use your phrase, even when things are 50 shades of crazy, you still carry on as if life is as it should be. So I knew you back when you were a missus, back when you were married. I knew you when you had folks over for dinner, for holidays, for stuff for this. And again, and most things in life, in the middle of it, you don't know. But in hindsight, we can always look back and say, oh, that's what that was about. Or, oh, I didn't know this. So I now look at you and think of a swan or a duck or a waterfowl, because above the water, you were gliding. You were smiling. You want some more potatoes? You were doing this. Let me get you another glass of wine. But under that water, you were paddling like crazy. Yeah. You had one eye on David Emmanuel. Is he okay? Is he doing this? But all I saw was grace under pressure. Yeah. But I didn't see the pressure. And that's an important part of many of our careers, our family life, our today, walking in the world we live in today. There are so many hits, media hits, family hits, whatever, they can break your back. The pressure can be so ongoing, inconsistent from left, right, up, and down. But you showed a great way of resilience in, I'm going to glide through this. I'm going to go through this. I'm still watching. I'm still going on top of the water. And under those feet are just paddling like crazy to get you to today, to get you to what's next. Oh, I love what's next. That may be the name of my next book. Next. My next book. I haven't got book number 1 out yet, so.
I'm not mad at you. Let's do this. That's right. What is next? And yeah, and for me, again, in the work, because if you are living an aligned life, art imitates life, life imitates art. You bring all of those pieces. And so the work that I'm doing now is teaching people how to reframe the narrative and to tell a better story. So to your point, I could have come out of the other side of this like angry and whatever. And don't get me wrong, I wasn't like, yay, but I chose to tell a more empowering story. And for the most part, as much as I tell my story, and the first article that I wrote about it was, what I said was, I choose to tell my story without telling kids. So I don't have to vilify somebody, because everybody got a grandmother that'll tell you every dark deed will come to light. You ain't got to fight that battle. That light will shine on it. So I didn't let that pull my energy. I wasn't attached to, I got to get back, and I wasn't even attached, Bernard. I finally learned that when you can really truly release people to the outcomes of their choices, you don't have to be attached to what that outcome is. That's when you know that you're fully free. Because a lot of people say that, but what they're really saying is karma is a bitch and you're going to get yours. And yet that energy is going to something that doesn't serve you. So if I take the energy and say, who do I get to become as a result of this? And yes, some of the things were just insane and unfair and EIEIO. And yet I can tell that story and say, I survived this part, and this is who I was able to become in the process. rather than somebody did something to me, something happened to me. I can say I took that experience and I became, as Michelle Obama's book, Becoming.
Yep.
So for me, it was a becoming, it was an unfolding, it was a freeing and a releasing in that process, that I didn't have to stay attached to that madness. And I could just focus on, how do I become the sole caregiver for an adult son with special needs and just make it work? I can't focus on what somebody's not doing. I can only focus on, what can I do to make sure that he and I are okay.
I love that focus. And I love that focus of how you spend your energy. You know, we all have a finite amount of energy for the hour, for the day, for the week, a finite amount. And too often, I'm going to speak about right now, in today's world, there is so much madness happening globally. And I'll just speak to in the US, that often I have friends and family who often are behaving like a Jack Russell Terrier, and just barking, 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 and running around in circles, barking, barking, barking about, well, you know what they just did. You know what they did there. You know what he said here. You know what, like, whoa, 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 whoa. I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about what I'm going to do. What can I control? What's in my circle? So what somebody says, what they do, I cannot directly impact what they say. I cannot. But what I can do is support, write, get behind other organizations and other people who are countering that, who are actually doing something that aligns with my goals and my plans. And I think we need to do more of that, rather than spend energy on repeating, I'm just going to call garbage that other people have put out there.
Yeah.
That does not serve you and doesn't serve the person you're talking to.
Exactly.
Doesn't serve you in a positive way. It may serve you in a way of getting your pressure up, because, you know, folks will get your pressure up in a heartbeat. So I'm not signing up for that.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And like, you know, like, peace at all costs. Protect your peace and protect your energy. And you're right that you can even, and like in some of the work that I do in the teaching, and I'll start with, you know, even when I was in therapy, you know, like I knew that my marriage was coming to an end, and I knew that my life was crazy as hell. Crazy as hell, as my dear would say. And so I had to do the work to say, okay, what can I do? What can I change? What can I fix? What can I, you know, and so going through the process, and it is in the telling of the story. So there's a lot of ways that you can tell the story. If you tell the story, and then they did this, and then they did that, and can you believe that you're still attached to that? And yet, if you can say, and it's funny because I have an article coming out tomorrow that is going to be like, oh my God, and I've written it before, but like the whole article, you know, I was in a situation that somebody cared more about where they lived than taking care of their family. And I was in a $1.2 million house, rolling quarters to buy food for dinner, you know, and like, that is crazy. And yet I could tell that story like, and this is what I had to do, and then that happened. And now I can just tell it like, I can't believe how crazy this was. And this is what I did to continue to take care and make sure that my son had medicine and there was food on the table, and, you know, and whatever. And again, I don't have to say, and this person did this or would not do that. It's obvious. And so the piece for me finally was, okay, you know that they're not going to change. You know that this is going to continue to happen. Roz, what is your choice and what is your part? How are you going to do something different? Like when David Emmanuel was younger, because he's nonverbal, we used to, and he would have self-stimulatory behavior. We would say, you have to stop and do something different. Mm-hmm. So I started taking that advice, Roz, you have to stop and do something different. And I think that that is what we all have to do when we're in situations that drain our energy, that are not affirming or aligned with who we are. how do we stop and do something different? And for me, the piece was, and yeah, 30 years was a long time. And yet my grandmother, my maternal grandmother used to always say, you pull your hand out of the lion's mouth slowly. So you can't wake up one day and say, okay, I'm going to blow up my life when you have a nonverbal special needs child who's dependent on you. So how do you begin to plan for that and make those changes and change even, again, my own story? Because my story was I was a rescuer. I was a fixer. I was a EIEIO. And it's like, girl, that's not working for you. Do something different.
Yep. And in the middle of it, you don't see that. Again, when we look back, we can say, okay, now this makes sense. And now this happened. Now this happened. You made me think of, so college, my focus was going into retail. I worked retail. I got retail jobs that I liked. I was doing it. And it was wonderful. It was wonderful. It was wonderful until it wasn't.
Yeah.
And for me, when it wasn't, it was like a light switch. And many of my closest friends I met through retail, through traveling the world together, through buying, through product. And many of them I saw get fired unceremoniously because, you know, one of the cruel realities of retail for large corporations is you're only as good as your last sale. So you're out at market and you see this dress and this is beautiful. Let's buy 1 million of these. This is going to be the hot dress for next summer. And it's not the hot dress for next summer. Now, the person who bought that, Roz was the buyer, and she bought that. She did not buy that alone. She had a whole bunch of industry experts. She had her chief marketing officer. Everybody agreed with her. Yep, go ahead and buy those, Roz. Buy 1 million of them. We're going to sell those like crazy. But when they don't sell, Roz, have you lost your mind? Why did you go out on a limb and do this by yourself? It's gone. Just tomorrow, gone. Escorted out the door. Then I had said, y'all, if this ever happens to me, I'm not the one. So let's find a dignified way of this. And when the flip switched for me, and it was on a high note, I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I literally do not want to do this anymore. I did not know my next, other than I've been volunteering in schools and I want to do more to help education kids. Now, in retrospect, it wasn't about kids and education. It was about the community. In retrospect, because I didn't know what was next, and I stayed with the corporation to do this program in community building. What I did not know is I had zero knowledge at the time of how nonprofit organizations work. I had no idea how schools worked and school-based community organizations worked. But that's what the universe wanted me to learn.
Yes.
And if they said, well, I was in a factory in Singapore, if it said, oh, we want you to learn about nonprofit organizations improving communities, I would have told the universe, you have lost your mind. You got the wrong person. But okay, let me start with what I do understand. I understand kids need role models in schools, and there aren't enough Black men in classrooms. So I can do that. So that was granular. I could understand that. Universe smiled and said, yeah, baby, that's it. No, that's it for 15 minutes. And then fast forward, working in corporate, literally working with thousands of nonprofit organizations to understand their challenges and how we might support them with a variety of resources, not just cash, but other resources, to then become a consultant for Georgetown University in their executive education program for nonprofit leaders, to now, to fast forward to today, being a consultant for several large national and very tiny local nonprofit organizations. If you had told me 20 years ago, when you're in your 60s, here's what you're going to be known for, and here's what people call you to do, I would have said, absolutely not. You have me confused with somebody else, because I didn't know what was next.
Yeah.
And I wasn't ready for it. But once you're ready and you receive it, it's amazing, to me at least, what opens up and becomes available and readily necessary and enjoyable. Because joy's got to be in there.
Yes.
If there's no joy, don't even call me. And that's what's next.
Yeah.
I'm still stuck on your word earlier, next, because
Yeah. Exactly. And it's funny because, to your point, the organization that I left, because I was serving kids in the community. I was serving kids in my community, and there was the kids who grew up with me, the kids who grew up under me, and then like that kind of generation just beyond me. And so that has always been part of my passion. So just like you're saying, well, how do you align that with going to Paris and pursuing a career as a classical soprano? And then how do you connect that with building an opera company when you couldn't follow your dream, and so you helped other people follow theirs? And so again, the through line, and what is so ironic is just before we got on this call, I got a text from one of my students, and I haven't listened to it yet. I guess he was 17 or 18 now. Then he's in his 30s now, and he's still sending me his music like, Mrs. Clark, this is what I did. Hey, Mrs. Clark, can you listen to this? And so I planted a seed, and there's still this connection that I know, for them, like, it's like, I know if there's one person that believes in me, it's Mrs. And so as long as I keep pursuing my dream, I know that I can share it with her, and she's going to cheer me on. Yeah. And that is the most beautiful and humbling thing that I can imagine being a part of people's lives to this very day.
And in that moment, in the moment that you are directly touching their lives or directly talking, asking, being involved with them, you have no clue what that means to them. No. Because you can't. They don't know what it means to you. And that's where it makes me truly weep, is when 20 years later, 30 years later, 5 years later, somebody who you kind of sort of remember reaches out and says, you have made my life. You have made a name just popped into my head. Judy Gottlieb. I don't know where Judy is. I'm assuming she's still on this earth. When I was in college at Sonoma State University back in the late 70s, early 80s, I took a course, and I knew I was going to my plan was to go into business, into retail. I took a business class called Organizational Communications, or what your mother would tell you if she was the CEO of a major corporation. Now, this is let's say 1980. Very, very, very few women were CEOs of major corporations, still are very few. And Judy's class, Judy was young for a professor, was all about how you need to show up and navigate in the corporate world. I was the only Black person in that class. And we didn't have any books. She had a lot of guest lecturers, a lot of guest visitors, and we would go out and talk to some C-suite individuals. But she did an individual, right now we would call it a P, Performance Improvement Plan, a PIP, on each student in that class. And one of the things she had told me point blank was, she goes, you have a great wit and a great sense of humor. You will need to use that to get in the door and thrive in big corporations. Because with wit, as a Black man, you're a tall Black man, and many will see you as a threat. Now, I'm 21, 22 years old. And here's this little short Jewish woman telling me I'm a tall Black man and I'm a threat. Now, the truth is, that's true. But no one had told me that. But she said, use that wit. It will open doors for you. But you have to temper it, because then they will say, you're not serious.
Yes.
You're the class clown. You're the court jester. You're the witty one in the room. So you need to balance that with numbers, with facts, with details. You need to ask hard questions that make them think, oh, we hadn't thought about that question. But you also, again, need to follow it, because as a tall Black, your size matters and the color of your skin matters, because there will be men in that room and they will feel threatened. Mm-hmm. That has been a reality almost all of my career.
Yeah.
Judy Gottlieb. I haven't thought about Judy in a long time. She came up with a whole bunch of stuff that helped me, but it was like, wow. And ironically, and she also said this, which is true. She's like, if you don't see people of color to support you, get women to support you. A woman will support you before a man will. I have seen that to be majority of my sponsors and coaches in my career have been women, and not necessarily women of color, but they have gone to bat for me. I can't tell you how many times.
Yeah.
I got
Yeah.
off on a tangent there. I don't even know how I got there, but anyway.
Well, what I think the assignment is to go on LinkedIn and see if you can find Judy.
Oh, yep.
I think that's the assignment. And I think, the other thing that in this conversation that I find very interesting, and I can say it for my clients because what I always say is I am changing the lives of women who are destined to change the world. And so a lot of the women that I'm working with are ready to either transition out of corporate, have had a lot of success or whatever. They're ready, again, here comes that word again, they're ready for next, and they don't exactly know how to do it. So as this, in this new era of the digital economy and being able to go online and create content and build brands and build businesses and all of those things, going back to changing the narrative, that when you make that move from corporate and you make that move to consulting, a lot of people still show up as an employee. You're a consultant, but you keep showing up as an employee and you allow people to treat you as an employee when the truth of the matter has now become, I am an expert and I have information that your organization needs, and I'm here to show you how to do it. So I'm not here to show up and do a job. I am here to facilitate transformation. And I think a lot of people who make that shift from corporate to consulting don't make the mindset shift of changing the role and who they are and how they show up in the world.
Right. Another person, Jody Kozlak, she was the chief HR officer for quite a while. And when I had decided that I was going to be leaving, retiring actually, and then going to consulting, she set it up so that I could consult internally to learn how to be a good consultant, a strong consultant, when to say no, when to say yes. And towards the end of that process, internal training, and I was working on developing a website, she said to me, why are you doing this website? So I kind of explained to her to build a brand and do it. That's all great. That's all great. Keep doing that. She's like, but you need to know that majority, maybe all, but at least the majority of her clients are not going to hire you because of your website.
Yes.
They're going to hire you because either they have worked directly with you or they have seen you in action. They saw you speak at a meeting. They saw you at a conference. They have some connection to you, and they're going to either reference you, refer you, or have worked with you and they're going to hire you. That has been 100% true. 100% true. Which has been to my benefit also, because as one client told me, that I'm an acquired, Bernard, you're an acquired taste. And at first I'm like, I don't know if you just insulted me or not. But then it's like, there's a couple of wines that I really like that a lot of people don't care for. That's an acquired taste. Lord knows I love me some Uncle Nearest bourbon, and bourbon is an acquired taste. So and I did later ask her to explain what she meant by that. And everything she said, I could embrace and hold on to. But yeah, if you have not worked with me before and you hire me and we're having a conversation and I'm like, baby, have you lost your mind? Why would you want to do something like that? I could see some people like, why is he talking to me like that?
Right.
I'm bringing my whole true self.
Right. To keep the spirit's analogy, you are straight, no chaser, my friend.
Yeah. Yep.
And I love that. And it's funny because, and we've talked about this because we spent so much time together when I lived in California. And so the whole wine thing, and you are definitely one of my best wine and foodie friends of all times. And then when I moved here to Savannah, I was like, okay, my job is to learn to understand and appreciate bourbon. So I'm doing the work. I'm doing my assignment, sir.
And I appreciate people who jump into their job wholeheartedly. Wholeheartedly. I'm going to go into next for just another second because next is going to be on my brain for a while now. Maybe
Okay.
next is my 2025 word. But often I'll think about myself, but I also have a couple of people in mind. Often when we think of what next, we think of next as, okay, now I'm there. And rarely is that it. It's not done. You know, what it was the choir song we used to sing in the choir, it ain't over till God says it's over. Yeah.
Right.
So next may be just another step to get you where you need to be.
Yes.
Or where you were meant to be. You may have 5 more next in you, 8 more next in you. So the one next you get to, whether you love it or hate it, as my aunt would say, live another day. That next may be a temporary 8-month next. It may be an 18-month next. Or it may, we don't know. So I just want to remind folks, as I learned, okay, this role that I have, I'm not sure this is perfect for me, but I'll give it my best. Well, good, because you don't know this, but you're not going to be in that role a year from now.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, 100%. Because again, it's the story that we tell ourselves. It's the role that we cast ourselves in. And like you said, it's next. It's ever evolving. I mean, yes, I will always be David Emmanuel's mom. I will always be Serenity's mom. And yet I'm also their champion. And for Serenity, it's different because we are colleagues in some ways, because we work on projects together and things like that. And so what I'm not anymore is a wife, and thank you, Jesus. And yet, you know, that person, that part of my loyalty to family, that hasn't changed. It's the structure of family. And because I had to step in and play both roles, you know, that is what it is. So I still have the loyalty to family without having to be a wife. And, you know, and I didn't choose the animosity piece. That was chosen for me. And so I had to step into, okay, it's not going to be pleasant. It's not going to be kind. It's not going to be whatever, what I had hoped. So how do I continue to function to the highest ability to serve my family? Yep. And my family of what it looks like now? Because so that is the next right yep. now. In my career, how did I come off the stage and get online? And how do I serve my clients in a way that affirms and moves them on to their next? And I think to bring, because you hit on so many beautiful things around next, and I think bringing it back to where we started, yes, there's so much going on. There's flux and there's change and there's fear and there's all of these other things. And yet we get to choose the energy that we bring to next. We get to choose the creativity that we bring to next. And we get to choose who we are and how we show up in the world through whatever is next.
Amen.
Hey, have you been trying to figure out how to attract high-level dream clients, to level up your influence, and to position yourself as an in-demand authority in your field? Well, good news. I created the Standout Storytelling Live workshop just for you. It is a live virtual workshop where I will help you to dial in your story, dial in your message, figure out who your ideal dream client is, and share your message and your story in such a way that they raise their hands to work with you. So no hard sell, no crazy DMing, no cold calling. You showing up as the best and highest version of yourself on these internets, and your dream clients coming flocking to you. Messages in your DMs, opportunities to speak and to lead workshops. That's what I can help you do. And that's what I want to help you do. You have a message that is unique to you, that no one else can deliver. And yet in these times, the world needs your message more now than ever. So if this is something that sounds like you want to be a part of, shoot me a message, leave a comment below, and I'll share the information with you on how you can register to be a part of Standout Storytelling Live. And in the meantime, just continue to think big, dream even bigger, and know that you are meant to share your message.
Amen. Inshallah. And, because I'm going to keep on with those ands, because you said it and I'm like, add on to it. And consciously or subconsciously, we bring our past with us. So not only is it what's next, I'm going to pick on you. You brought that girl that used to be you, who was getting the community involved, you brought her along to where we are today.
Yeah.
You brought Roz on stage. Now, granted, you don't have the gown on right now, and you don't have the glitz and the makeup and all that. Your stage persona, you bring to the screen right now. The shoulders back, the smile, blah, blah, blah. All of those other pieces of you, you bring the woman who hosts holiday parties to the place you are today.
Yeah.
And there are some things in the past you're like, yeah, I'm not going to bring that with me. I'm going to leave that in the past. That's a good thing too, because we learn from our past. But the best of what was in our different role, we still bring along. That's what I love about where we were, because we can choose what baggage we're gonna leave behind. I don't need that. Does not serve me anymore. I learned it. I saw it. That's not me anymore. Never did serve me, or it served me, but it's time to move on.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's a big piece, B, that doing something different doesn't mean that everything was wrong. It just means that you've moved past that. And to your point, when I turned 21 in Paris singing classical music and thought I was on track to have an international career, and then David Emmanuel had his first seizure, and things went off to the races.
Life happened.
Life started lifing. And then when I left the marriage after 30 years, I went through 3 months of homelessness, then rebuilt, and I went back to Paris to celebrate my birth and my rebirth, because I celebrated my 60th birthday in Paris. And like you said, it wasn't about me trying to recapture my youth, and yet it was honoring that bold dreamer, that young woman who came from a working class blue collar neighborhood in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and was singing in Paris at 21. So how do I bring more of her into this next iteration of my life? So you're right. If we're wise, we take the best of us with us.
Joy and vibrancy and celebration is what we think of when we think of a 21-year-old artist going to Paris. And when we think of a 60-year-old, quite often we think, oh, they're retired, so they're going to relax. No, they're going back to remember. I have joy, not had, I have joy. I have vibrancy. I have resilience. I love, 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 love that. And everybody's got a Paris. I would argue everybody has a Paris. It may not be Paris. It may be the fruit orchard back behind grandmama's house. It may be New Orleans. It may not be a physical place, but it's a place of joy.
Yeah. Yeah. I tell my clients all the time, like, to chase, to reconnect with your dreams. And they're like, well, my dream was to be an Olympic skater. Get back on the ice. It's not about the Olympics. It's about what you feel when you're gliding on the ice. Get back on that ice. So like you're saying, Paris can be an ice skating rink or whatever, the barbecue at grandma's, whatever that is. There's something that we can, that touchstone, Bernard, that we get to say, oh yeah, I remember that.
Yep. And that made me feel fill in the blank.
Yes.
As long as it's a positive fill in the blank, not, related. Dr. Maya Angelou, They may not remember what you said. They will probably not remember what you did, but they will always remember how they made you feel.
Yeah.
I love that quote for a bunch of reasons, but two main reasons is it can be polar opposites. Because I remember some things people have said to me in the past that were so down putting, that were so taking away my value. I am not worthy or I am less than. Oh, I remember you said that. Specifically remember not getting promoted, not getting jobs because I'm just not fill in the blank enough, or I'm too fill in the blank. And then I remember those people who said something along the lines, because they made me feel something along the lines of, you are the best thing that's come through those doors in a long time. That's what you hold on to.
Yep.
And I couldn't tell you exactly what they said, but it was, they value me. They believe I am special, or even more specific, they believe in me doing this. And that helps, especially when you're younger, but I'm going to tell you, it helps when you're in your 60s. It helps you go to what's next.
Yeah.
Because I believe in me. You believe in me, I believe in me, and I know you will help support me on this journey. So thank you for that. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I get that. And to that point, Bernard, you have been my friend, my supporter, my mentor. You have been so many amazing things in my life. And I've always known that if I need a true feedback, an honest opinion, or even just a big old hug to say, keep going, I knew that I could always trust the truth in you. And I want to thank you for that. You are one of the greatest gifts of not only my career, just my life in general. So I just want to honor you and thank you and celebrate all that you've done, first and foremost, in my life. And then the countless lives that you have impacted in your work over the years. The ripple effect will go on for generations. And I just want to see you and celebrate you and honor you for that.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. And yes, I was blessed. The good Lord blessed me with these extra long arms. They are ridiculously long. So if I don't use these to give people I love big hugs, shame on me. So, and the good thing about a hug, if you give a good hug, you get one right back. So it's
Yes, you
almost
do.
self-serving.
100%. So, Bernard, how can our viewers find you, follow you, continue to tap into your wit and your wisdom? Where's the best place for people to connect with you?
LinkedIn is the best place. I'm rethinking my social media engagement right now, just based on a whole bunch of stuff, including my own mental sanity. And LinkedIn is the best place. I'm active on LinkedIn, if not every day, every other day, and primarily to uplift and see what other organizations, specifically nonprofit organizations, are doing and providing them tips and tricks. And hey, look at this! I thought this was interesting. So LinkedIn first and foremost. My email is bernard@bebeneficent.com. Be beneficent. That's a long word and a whole bunch of letters and a whole bunch of vowels. Find me, Bernard Boudreaux, on LinkedIn. I'm the only Black guy on there. So go there. Okay, that was a lie. That was a big lie. We're all over LinkedIn. But go from there. And I would love to hear successes, especially if you work in the community space or the nonprofit space. I would love to hear some successes you had in 2024 and how you're going to carry those into 2025. Said via this conversation, what's next for you? What's next for your organization? So love to know, and love to know how I can help.
Awesome. Well, B, thank you so much for being here. And
I
to
love
my
you so much and so proud of you. So very proud of you.
Thank you, honey. I appreciate it. Yeah, I keep coming up, keep showing up, and keep going to next. And this just feels right. And I will say this before we sign off. This was born during the pandemic, if you will, because I had gone to Paris the year before, And then we were all sheltering in place, and it was my birthday. And I was like, okay, how do I give back to my community? And I did the 12 days of Roz Giving.
Yes.
And you were one of my
Yep.
guests. And so at that time, I was like, oh, I don't want to do a podcast. I don't want to do. I was like, I just want to do this. And yet that seed was planted, and it kept coming around. And now it's the right time and the right space. And I'm so excited to serve. And that's one of the reasons I was like, I got to have you back to my community again. And yeah, just being open, like you said, to what is next. So I'm excited, and I'm going to nudge you about the book and see what's going to come out of this. If nothing else, maybe just an article that you write, Bernard. I'm just saying, I'm just saying.
So, I hear you. And I am receiving all that is to be given that's uplifting and beneficial. So yes.
Yes, 100%. And so to you, my viewer, I hope that you have enjoyed this time. I hope that you have gotten a sense of inspiration, a nugget, something that makes you say, you know what, it is all going to be well. And what is my part? What is this here to teach me? How am I supposed to show up? What does rebirth and resilience look like to you? And what I will promise you is there is at least one person that needs you to speak into their lives. So continue, as I tell you all the time, continue to dream and think even bigger. And I will see you again. Be well. Peace.